Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
The white zone is for loading and unloading of heretics only. The red zone is for loading and unloading of traitors only. Mind the gap.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Jason Craze, Slow Fuse Game. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog. Great intro.
Hey. Glad to be here, man. Good to see you. Virtually see you, I suppose.
Question mark?
I always see you guys when I close my eyes.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that on anywhere, actually. If there were other people involved, I thought we were keeping that to ourselves. But hey, I mean, maybe I misunderstood. I mean, I'm willing to have whatever conversation you want to do.
I'll never lie to you guys.
Jason, did you see that provocative picture of Kenny, Haspil, and Juice looking at me like I was the dog and they were the tigers?
So that made me a little uncomfortable.
I was uncomfortable.
That's such a good picture, though.
Somebody needs to meme that and be like, Rob needs an adult.
You know, I put it up for caption, but no one's really captioning. I think it just speaks for itself.
It's like, it's the unwritten rule.
Some things are literally just too good. They don't need any more words. Like, you can just throw them out there and they take on a life of their own. That was one of those things.
It's almost like the after hours, or not the after. Well, yeah, the social we had at Adepticon, where we were all over in the suite, and Juice comes back and he's like, and he just like goes over to the next room, and he gets in my bed, and I'm ready to go to sleep, and I go over there and I see he's in my bed, and I'm like, what do I do? He's in my bed. I can't. He's bigger than me.
I'm sure if you just asked, it would have been like, just cuddle up right next to me, little Robbie B.
I know. That's why I didn't ask.
I'd say if you guys were here for that conversation, Juice harped on forever about the tiger and the dog video on Facebook. I think it was
yeah. Where you think the dog's gonna like, or you think that the tiger's creeping up on the dog, and then all of a sudden it's like licking him to death,
forcing his affection on him. That's basically, and then Juice was like, "That's us," and then Rob is the dog. So that picture verifies that.
Just pick a spoon size.
Oh, wow.
So
now it's getting uncomfortable.
So obviously Mike Haspil and Juice aren't here tonight. They're both busy with other elements of their life. I'm not going to say real life. This is real life.
40K is a lifestyle. Tabletop hobby. Lifestyle. Real life, not a lifestyle. It's just this
is as real as it gets.
It don't get no real. Yo, it did get real today. Charlie Murphy, take it from us. Too soon.
Taken from us. Yeah, one of the greats. Most unfortunate.
We'll miss him. I know. Very sad.
To spin it so we don't have to, because obviously everyone knows who that guy is. And if you haven't seen it on Facebook feeds, it's happened. It's definitely very sad. Seems like a lot of people are dying right now. But, you know, if I really step back and thought about it, you know, people die every day, and you got to mourn them in your way and then go on with your life, aka real life, this hobby.
I feel like everything you need to know about how real life works, you can take from The Lion King. The Circle of Life song.
Oh, my God.
Brings it to your mind.
That is the realest movie of all time.
It really is.
Me and Bonet were talking about the other day, and she's like, yeah, why can't I just be like the Lion King? I was like, you mean like we're the rich elitists just literally feast upon the poor people? She's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, literally he takes them up to Pride Rock. He's like, you see that? That's ours. Circle of Life. Everyone does their job and everyone lives. I was like, but Dad, our job is to eat them. Yeah, but then don't worry, like they decay and then they become the earth. So they become feces is their job.
Our job is to challenge, inherit the earth.
Like, huh? And Bonet's like, what the fuck was wrong with you as a kid?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little dimmer than on my take on that movie. But
I mean, I like the what is it, Hakuna Matata part.
Yeah, man. I thought that was the only thing that movie was about. I don't understand.
I don't know what they were doing in the jungle either. The mighty jungle. No idea.
You're totally going to make us break out singing in a second. Is that what the...
I'm trying.
Is that what you're going for?
I got the deep voice here. I was hoping somebody would chime in. I can only go so high.
Come tired of bitches. Yep.
Oh, man. Well, we don't have Haspil here to tell us about Dawn of War 3, but there's some other stuff to talk about. I feel like.
Well, what is there to talk about, Robbie B?
Well, it turns out Games Workshop keeps putting out new things, but not just Games Workshop. This week, Fantasy Flight Games is also putting out a new game called Rune Wars, which, if you were lucky enough to go to Adepticon, you probably got one of the starters.
Probably no. Like there was 4,000 people there. I don't think 4,000.
So like a couple hundred of them got it for the VIG bag.
You probably did not get it.
Mm.
But if you're one of the lucky individuals who's able to get their VIG badge, you got it. That's you know how cool it is.
Yeah, that game is coming out. The starter, also spare dice pack and a table mat to play on. Now you can play the smaller games at 3x3, but normal size games will be played at 6x3. So it's X-Wing map size. When you do 200-point games, it goes up to 6x3. So big rollout this week. They've already announced another faction of Latari elves, which look pretty dope. They're basically wood elves that ride battle cats. The coolest thing in the history of ever, I'm pretty sure.
You are just described yourself. I'm not, as I'm thinking of you, I was like, Rob is definitely like a fey creature.
I am. I do have a certain boyish fey charm, I suppose.
He's like literally probably a hollow boned, almost as light as air, very fair complexion.
Could play the role of Peter Pan.
Oh yeah, easily could have been a Peter Pan. And now and he's obviously has a deep-seated obsession with cats. So I'm like, obviously you're going to like this.
Yeah, I feel like that's it. Is it Robbie B was like, yo, you had me at battle cats.
I don't know much else about them, but they look pretty cool. So, anyways, so Rune Wars coming out. Check it out. It should be in stores this weekend. Also in stores this weekend from Games Workshop. I believe the starter is $90, and the dice pack slightly less. Don't know exactly. I think
is this Rune Wars? Is that you still talking about Rune Wars for that?
Yeah,
price?
Rune Wars, and the mat I think is $25. But you got to buy 2 of them, so just keep that in mind if you're trying to play bigger games. For Games Workshop, they got 3 big releases this week, which we talked about some on the webcast. How they have managed to take the 7 sprues that comprise the new Sector Mechanicus terrain and turn them into 6 different products that are going to be released over, the next.
Goddamn, just fishing bastards.
Yes, they're like robots. But it's smart on their part, and all this stuff's modular. It goes together very well. It's very well detailed.
They're just the same old pieces of terrain, right? There's nothing new about them, right?
I mean, No, I mean these are new things. I mean, they did come out in Shadow Wars Armageddon.
Is there any rules? I mean, is it just a wall is a wall is a wall, or?
Right. Yeah. No, we got some new rules right here. So first up, so for Sector Mechanicus, you got the Ferrotonic Furnace coming out, the Alchemite Stack, and the Galvanic Magnavent. Now, the Galvanic Magnavent is a 4-sprue kit that goes for $75. The other 2 are a 2-sprue kit. Those go for $50. Don't ask me how the math works. I don't know. But they look pretty cool. And like I said, they do have rules that come in the boxes themselves, just like we've seen little data cards for all sorts of stuff from the Prospero units to now this terrain. So each one of them has a little specific data sheet that comes in it. For the Ferrotonic Furnace, that is it looks like a soup can with a landing pad on top of it that really isn't that big. You know what I'm talking about there? It basically has.
I literally have no idea because I used to get those and just turn them into different things. I don't know what the fuck what is this thing? So
it counts as a ruins. So 4 cover save, whether or not you're 25% obscured or not, unless you're a vehicle or a monstrous creature. No access points, no weapons, no options, no nothing like that. Now, all 3 of these kits have the special rule Aegis of the Messiah, where you can reroll cover saves of 1 for models on or within 1 inch of a Sector Mechanicus terrain piece. But remember, Sector Mechanicus, I believe, is also the name of the terrain pieces. The thing like the hematite, conglegial, whatever the thing is, I don't even know. The thing that came out recently, I believe that's also part
the reactor, the hematope reactor or whatever.
Yeah, the reactor. I believe that is one as well. And
but then there's a negative associated, right? Like there's something bad that can happen to you if you roll a different number on your cover save or something.
Right. So on a roll of a 1, so if you do roll the 1, remember you can reroll. Each unit that is either on or within 3 inches of the furnace immediately suffers D6 strength 5 AP4 hits with ignore cover. I mean, if you remember to do it, I guess, right?
Well, what about this? So if you hit a 6, is that what happens?
No, if you so you can reroll cover saves of 1.
So if you pass cover save, it can do something.
No, if you so
where are these wounds coming from that you're just talking about?
It comes from the terrain itself.
To whom?
Each unit that is either on or within 3 inches of the terrain.
So if I make a cover save and I'm in the terrain, I get hurt.
If you reroll, if you roll a 1, on a roll of 1 at the start of each game turn, This
is the worst thing. I don't even.
So you could just be near it and then you just take a wound. Wow. Okay.
I mean, obviously it's a narrative piece.
It's definitely a narrative piece. I would just say it's just like ruins and be like, who remembers half that stuff anyway? So now you got to do mysterious objectives. Now you got to do this. Now you got to.
I've literally never in the once have ever actually played an entire game with mysterious objectives and actually made it the whole game and remembered every turn the mysterious objectives.
I think these terrain rules definitely go into the title of our episode here. So the Sector Mechanicus Alchemite stack, those are those phallic looking pieces. Each piece must be placed within 3 inches of each other. They're impassable terrain. They have their reroll cover saves of 1, but each time you roll a 6 when making a cover save for a model now. So this is a little bit different. The Ferrotonic Furnace you just check for, whenever you roll a 6 on a cover save here, the unit suffers D3 strength 6 AP3 hits with ignore cover special roll. I mean,
and this is on the dick shaped ones.
Yes.
so the dick ruin that ass.
Yeah, they do. On a 6. No, who wants to get a 6 and be like, oh no. Gotcha. And then the Sector Mechanicus, the Galvanic Magnevent, that's the big playset looking thing. Also is a ruins. Normal ruin rules apply. Aegis of the Messiah, so you can reroll cover saves of 1. Now at the start of the game turn, back to that, you got to check on a roll of 1. Each unit that is within 3 inches of a pipe or chimney section immediately suffers D3 strength 8 AP2 hits with the ignore cover special roll. Wait, what?
These are the worst.
You can like blow up a vehicle with these.
You can ruin. Oh my god, dude! It's like, do not.
Why would you play with these rules?
Like, I mean, what are you going to be the dick who puts the objective like in the ruin? Like, you gotta get that
like right next to, like, arrange it so like it's a booby trap of all 3 of them within equal range. So one of them is gonna like go off.
So, like, literally all the words from the time I last spoke to now, I don't even, it's some other language. Like, I just don't even know what's going on. But I have to say that without question, Galvanic Magnevent is something that I need in my life because I feel like it's something I need to tell people about when I'm in public. I feel like, you're just having a conversation. You're like, oh, yeah, my day was great, man. I was just sitting around, working on my Galvanic Magnevent. And day was pretty super. And just it needs to be part of the conversation. People need to know you have this power.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, no big deal. Just working on my Magnevent. Oh, which one? The Galvanic one. Like,
yeah, I just got my garage finished, so I figured I'd just go ahead and install my Galvanic Magnevent.
Yeah, I mean I think that's what GW is doing. They're just making up cool names for shit you need to have on your shelves so that you can just have better social conversations.
Good guy GW helping awkward nerds everywhere talk about their toys.
No, you're right though. This definitely falls into the
I would never
title of our
play these rules.
episode. It's like, good Lord, guys.
Brutal. But something I wanted to talk, jumping back to Rune Wars real quick, was a lot of people are like, yo, what's this Rune Wars? I see this big like carrion beast beetle worm thing and undead skeletons. Like I'm feeling that. You're talking about battle cats and like fae, wood elves and stuff. What is it? So Rune Wars is actually, if you're familiar with X-Wing miniatures, imagine X-Wing miniatures, the dials, the maneuver templates and things like that, combined with traditional Warhammer fantasy, blocked troops, maneuvering, wheeling into combat, smashing into things, reforming, charging, losing ranks, rank bonuses, all that stuff. That is basically what Rune Wars is.
And we briefly touched on it last episode. And the genius here is that, first off, Fantasy Flight don't play games. They've been around the block, and they're number one or number two biggest miniature companies in the world at any given time now. And I feel like they did an amazing thing with this. They got the IP, they got Star Wars, and then they made this amazingly popular game. And it's something we talk about all the time is the simplification of rules breeds the more advanced tactics. And having these movement templates and in this planning phase, we talked about it's a sequence of events. So the we go phenomenon versus the you go, I go turn-based phenomenon, that is being utilized by many game systems, not GW. The activation based. They took it one step further where we go at the same time because you're activating in secret. So you're both going, and then any reaction you have to that is going to be met by another reaction at the same time. It's a very genius way. It breeds a massive tactics. It's in a very simple scale. Then we talked about how Age of Sigmar scaled back to 4 pages of rules, doing functionally the same thing. And they even introduced an activation phase now in the close combat. So GW is learning. Simultaneously, while the sky was falling in Age of Sigmar, they were developing this game. It's not like Fantasy Flight just developed this game last week. They've been developing this game during that whole period of Age of Sigmar killing fantasy, and then the sky was falling. What they did, in my opinion, is pure genius. They took fantasy, the block troops, the maneuvering, which is functionally an archaic and outdated way of playing miniatures. They took it and applied their new tech to it with the maneuver templates, and completely changed my mind about it. Because that's one of my big problems always with the OG fantasy was like the maneuvering and formation, the wheeling and everything. They literally applied the fucking template to it. Like you put it here. We've all played X-Wing. We know how easy it is to put the template and then you move to the front of the template. You have now moved. Imagine how much more awesome units are going to be that move in formation, and how they're going to have individualized templates that reflect their speed or how maneuverable they really are. Like you might get that button hook template if you're like lightly armored, and you might only get that half turn if you're heavy cavalry.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Like heavy cavalry cannot shift, but they can perform basically 2 maneuvers each activation,
thus eliminating that entire argument you always had in fantasy days about wheeling infantry blocks or any blocks. So yeah. I think they're primed to take a niche that has been removed because GW left it behind. They picked it up and applied the new heat to it. I'm thinking with this company that has done some amazing things already behind this miniature system, easily primed to be one of the most popular miniature games in the world.
Oh yeah, I don't see how you can't even expect that. Like, and I'll be honest, and I've said it in the past, like, I owned a game store when they rolled out X-Wing, and I was like, they're soliciting it 3 months out, and they're like, hey, this game system's coming out. These ships are $15. And I'm like, who is going to pay $15 for a stupid X-Wing ship? And then, the first week it hits. And I'm like, yo, when y'all get more of them X-Wing ships, it's going to be a scratchy weekend. I need some more Y-Wings. I got to field 3 of them. What do y'all got? So I've played Rune Wars. Obviously, we have a full-on complete demo battle report breakdown between me and Juice coming out very soon on the Long War with 2 painted armies, beautifully painted armies by our friends over at White Metal Games. And it is, it's insane. Like you're gonna get the feels. If you were into Warhammer Fantasy in the past, you're going to get the feels. If you just like Fantasy Flight in general and like their spin on things, their dice system, their upgrade cards, all that stuff, this is going to kind of be the thing for you. I feel like if you can get a demo of it, get a demo of it. It is a solid game. It's really awesome. I want to go over some of my top 5 things that I like about it at some point. Maybe now, maybe later. I want to
pop in, Robbie B, first and ask a question that do you feel like Fantasy Flight brought this game to the table to replace Warhammer Fantasy and to appeal to those people that were playing it? Or do you feel like it is just their vision for a fantasy game in general because they already have these sci-fi games?
So I am not the right person to ask that question because I know the complete backstory to all of this and I cannot talk publicly about it. But that being said, so like my views are already like completely skewed. But I can tell you right now that if you enjoyed Warhammer Fantasy, if you enjoy things like Imperial Assault by FFG as well, if you enjoyed X-Wing, all of these things, if you enjoyed any of these things, you will thoroughly enjoy Rune Wars. And I think taking the universe, the Rune-bound universe that they already had existing and creating and branding this game with it was genius on their part also. Like if you follow along with Rune-bound, a game system, it's really dope. So I think it's a good thing. Like, I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, fair enough. I think that, for me, I don't know anything about the Rune-bound universe. It's not anything I've ever paid attention to. I don't really put hands on Fantasy Flight games in general because there's just not much hobby to it. I get the repaint world about it, but it's not a hobbyist miniature game. And so this I looked at, I'll be flat out honest. I gave away my copy at Adepticon, right? Because I looked at it and I was like, well, this doesn't interest me at all. And it's a cool story. There was a family there that had come in for the day, obviously local family, to see what it was all about. And, kids were excited. Dad was excited. And I gave them the game so they could go home with something as a full box game. And it was a cool deal. But I had already decided I was going to give it away to somebody because it wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't want and I'm going to go out on a limb and say a dumbed down fantasy game. I feel like fantasy was the game for the discerning miniature player. And people are going to get pissed off about that. But what I'm saying is that it had a breadth of rules that was maniacal at that point. I mean, movement was cumbersome, combat was cumbersome, rule sets were cumbersome, but it was because of that it had this very fervent populace that played it. Because once you invested the time, I feel like in fantasy, to get all the rules and to understand the magic phase and your characters and the way everything played out and bricks and ranks and that your investment was beyond just the models and the painting. Let's not even get into the cost of it. But I feel like it was a very vocal cry, still is. Obviously, we saw the breakdown between the Age of Sigmar and killing off a fantasy at the beginning, and how everybody was, burning armies and whatever else, So yeah. So I don't know. That was my curiosity, is if this was intended to hopefully appeal to those people, or if it was just filling a gap in the current miniature world for the need for a fantasy game that was maybe a little bit larger scale than a lot of the fantasy skirmish stuff that we're seeing. So, but I see your answer. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
I think. It is for all the people that like fantasy, and they're like, yo, I used to, use my fast cavalry to like run out and like masterfully bait these other units to charge them, and then I would retreat and then I would smash their flanks. And, I had all these like intricate series of I'm going to hit their flank and roll up their flank. Like, there is a surprising depth to this game that you might not see at first, but there really is. And cunning tacticians can really master a lot of this really quick and kind of see where it's going. Whereas just like in X-Wing, it will appeal to a broader group of players, because it's kind of like that thing, like it's dope and casual, but it also has depth to it. And and let's just kind of slide into the hobby aspect of it. I'm sure you took a look at it. It's that PVC plastic kind of thing that some of the privateer starters are right now.
It's that, I call it China plastic.
China plastic.
It's a cheaper plastic to get to market in bulk. So, you know, and we're seeing it in Cool Mean or Not is using it in some of their starter sets. You know, a lot of people are moving to it. It doesn't have many drawbacks. The drawbacks it has are slight. So, you know, it's not something from a hobbyist perspective that I think turns people off.
Right. No, I mean, it is not impossible to work with. It is a little bit more challenging when you're like, yo, I want to rank these guys up, you know, and have all their swords pointed and spears pointed the right way. And it's kind of like, wow, the spear kind of goes this way. And that's just the way it is. But you got to do a little hobby on it. Now, it is the base plastic. So hopefully FFG won't have any supply chain problems, because it's a lot easier to source these things like this that are just boom. You know, you just make it and you put it in the packaging at that point. You don't have to pre-paint it or anything like that, because a lot of games, you know, rise and fall on their ability to source the pre-painted materials. We've seen that in the past. But the cool thing about it is that there is a hobby aspect to it. You can hobby on these things. You can convert it. You can also, you know, there will be musician packs, you know, what do they call it? Like supplemental packs. So where you get like a musician, you get like a standard, you get like a sorcerer, all these things can fit into your little blocks. They've designed the miniatures themselves to rank up. Like you have a dude in the front, you know, drawing his bow. You have dudes in his back shooting, you know, way up over the front rank and things like that. So they've really put the time and effort into it. There's built-in diorama bases for the characters. Everything's very modular in its construction and the ability to kind of like move things around and fit things into certain places. And that's what I like about it, because it does give you that ability to hobby on it, right? It might not be the same hobby, same multi-part plastic. Hey, I want to convert this dude and put this shield over here. But if you just want to really have something to paint on, rank it up, you know, make it a winter base, make it a desert base, or, you know, a necrotic base. Boom. There you go.
Yeah, I will say I was surprised that, you know, that Fantasy Flight came out with, I don't know if surprise is the right word. I thought it was interesting and kind of cool to see that they came out with something that had a hobby aspect to it after all their other stuff, you know, really relying on you know, pre-painted goods and so on and so forth. But I don't know. I mean, I will dig on the models a little bit, just because they, you know, oh, wow, they're nice. They're historic. They take me back to the late 80s, early 90s of miniature design. So I guess for the nostalgia aspect, they're cool. But come on, Fantasy Flight, get with the 21st century. These models are archaic at best. But kudos to them for doing it. I'm interested. I'm very much interested to see where it goes. You know, I don't consider it a write-off from my point, but I don't, you know, in my end of the world, coming from a pure hobby aspect, the models don't appeal to me. They are very much kind of rehashed other idea models, and so it'll be interesting to see where they go with new sets. And is this the starter set is simpler, and we've got the bigger, more defined stuff on the horizon as they expand the game? I mean, from a business perspective, it's much better I think to do it this way. See what the reception's like, get it out there, see what you got to tweak and change, and how you're going to massage the rules and get everything to act more like a well-oiled machine, because they don't know what to expect either. They haven't done anything like this really. And, you know, so kudos to them. I'm always glad to see companies, especially, you know, ones that are fast becoming the biggest ones in the industry, willing to try new stuff and see what sticks. So
well, I think it's definitely the climate is right for sure, especially right now. And we're going to talk about that stuff probably later in the episode more, where the people are kind of in this holding pattern. Like, do I buy more stuff for 8th edition 40K? Do I wait? Do I build my hobby house and get all my hobby tools? Do I pick up an airbrush right now? Do I pick up the new Sky Dwarfs? Like, what do I do? And now this comes along and it's like, I used to like fantasy. I want to try this. Like, so the climate is right for the rollout of this particular game, in my humble opinion. And there will be an escalating level of complexity to it. Like we already know that there'll be sorcerers, regiments, you know, more upgrade cards. Now, going over the top 5 things I personally like about the game. We already talked about the pre-paintedness, but the ability to still hobby it, and hopefully, if it proves to be a success, allowing Fantasy Flight the ability to source the product and maintain that supply chain from China that we've seen stretch so thin with X-Wing and Armada releases, and even Star Wars Destiny, the card and dice game as of recently. I like the block combat wheeling mechanic to it. The trays themselves, if you remember the old like War of the Ring trays for Lord of the Rings, are very similar to that, but they come in smaller square configurations that actually kind of lock together. And part of the game is immediately when you lose the models that fit into a tray, the tray is destroyed, and the tray is how you get rank bonuses and things. So that's a physical representation of it on the tabletop, which is.
So what you're saying is that rather than like old fantasy where you would pluck models out of the tray, you'd have a tray that maybe had, 2 of 4 ranks filled because you lost 2 ranks. You're picking them out from the back. But if you had, if it was skeletons and you could summon more with a necromancer, then you could just put them in. Now, are you telling me that now if I lose enough ranks for one of these interlocking trays to disappear, it goes off the table and now it doesn't come back? I mean, unless they had some rule that says. I mean, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
So the tray will physically change size instead of having a tray that you're carting around with nothing on it except 2 or 3 guys or whatever.
Right. And the trays are what actually gives you victory points and such. Like everything's by tray. So
that's interesting.
For your unit size. And it's all represented. That actually leads us into my next thing I like is the game aids aspect to it. There is a small card. I think most people have seen them. Basically a magic card size card that's double-sided. On one side it has
you mean it's not as big as your face?
It's not as big as my face and written in like 8 text print and
8-point font, but as big as your face with 1 billion inches of negative space.
It's those GW battle cards are very disappointing.
Yes, I was much sadness.
I was a little disappointed in them. I liked the concept, but it fell flat on the actual implementation of them. I feel like I hope they change it with the Sky Dwarfs. But so this card is really awesome because it has a picture of the unit. It has their armor. It has their wounds. It has their special abilities listed. And this is very similar to like actually how magic cards look and are laid out, with the colons, like this activates this and all sorts of cool things like that.
Sick artwork too, or what?
Pretty. I mean, it's its own kind of artwork. It's not cumbersome, but it's not like it's like magic card artwork. It's not like the new CGI. It's kind of rustic. It's a little rustic. I like it. Which kind of goes along with that whole fantasy feel because fantasies, you got that old timey kind of hobby feel, I suppose, in your mind. So, and then when you flip the card around on the back, and this is where the tray thing comes in, it will list how big or how small this particular unit can be in a tray configuration. And for instance, a 2 trays of a troop might be like 16 points, but then when you go up and you follow it and you go across 3, you go across 3, you go across 3. Now you got 9 trays at the bottom. That might be 64 points. And you're like, well, how does that math even make sense? They give you a discount. They don't give you stuff for free, but they give you a discount. The more points wise, the more you take. And then there's a bracket to the right that represents the symbols that you can, for the upgrade cards that you can purchase separately. There are separate costs for war gear for that squad. So, and obviously, as you can imagine, the more trays you have for a unit, the more war gear you can equip, or you have the option of equipping if you want. So it's, believe me, having that little card on the table and all the demos and the games I've played has been, I'm just like, why don't we have this in all our other games? It would make it so much easier. So much easier.
I mean, in 6th edition 40K, remember how much time we put into making our own cards?
Yeah, dude, we have Photoshop documents of these things.
Dude, I have volumes of it, bro, because it's like we need them.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes it so much easier. If GW sold just like a pack of cards, like Privateer did those unit cards, you could just buy a pack, like all the Signar cards for like $20 or whatever. Like, dude, you would sell a ton of them. Tons. I don't even know what to say right now. It blows my mind. Another thing I like about this game, and those of you out there, Jason, have you been exposed to X-Wing at all, or Armada, or any of those type of games?
Yeah. I've actually sat through and watched a bunch of X-Wing being played. I got very interested in Armada because the depth of it just seemed more like what I was looking for. I like to, if I'm going to do this, I want to sit down and throw dice and it kind of take part in tactical combat over a period of time. I don't need it to be 9 hours, or a full, like Adepticon, let's do a tournament every day. But I want to be able to sit there and make it social. I feel like the quick turnaround game, that takes 45 minutes or an hour has its value, but I'm more of a, hey, let's sit down, let's do this for, 2 hours. And so I like the idea of Armada. I did not ever pull the trigger to get the starter set only because in our local scene, I am really just focused 100% on Infinity right now as far as my gameplay. So I can't give up another night of my week. Otherwise, I would probably be playing.
Yeah, to be honest, knowing what I know about your area out there, like you have one of the best Infinity scenes out there. So like you would be, I don't know what's the technical term, a stupid to not play Infinity if you live there.
Fuck it up.
Yeah.
You'd literally be fucking up. We do. We have literally we have probably one of the best. I can't say we have the best community because there's a lot. I mean that whole Infinity community is great, but yeah, it's great, and it's great for all tabletop miniatures. Is the nice thing. It's like if you have a game that you want to play and you want to go there, it's great. There's a great X-Wing community here, and as I watch it and I look at how it's played, I look at the simplicity of movement, the accessibility through simplicity. So I get what Kenny was alluding to earlier, is that if you narrow the rules band down, then you broaden your capacity to reach new clients and or gamers. And I think that right now, you'll hear we talk about it on our Twitch channel all the time, is that right now that's where the focus needs to be, is finding people who don't even know this is an avenue for them to find enjoyment and bring them into this world. And so I get pre-painted, I get, simplified rules. I like that. I think that those have always been good things. Games Workshop over the years has done things like that. I think that even back in the Mordheim Necromunda days, Epic, anything that they've done as these small games, nowadays they're doing it more because they come out with Shadow War Armageddon, they come out with Burning of Prospero, they got all of these Betrayal at Calth that are quote unquote games, but in reality, I've never talked to anybody that's played those games. I just talk to people that buy them because they're great deals on miniatures. It's a gateway drug to get you into the larger game.
Yeah,
and
I talked about it last week. Rob's like, "Oh, I played it," and I was like, "How many times?" He's like, "Once."
Half of once. But I think the thing is that it's a great concept as a leader. I don't want to say lost leader, because you want it to also have enough depth to get people into what is larger. And I think X-Wing does that. It gets you interested. If you know anything about Star Wars, you're going to be interested in it. If you don't really pay attention to Star Wars, it's still a fun game. And then if you want to grow and you want more tactical depth and you want more rules and you want more this and that and stuff you can do, you move to Armada. And for that reason, Armada, I think, is a smaller community than the X-Wing at large community. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case, because it does get deeper in the rules. But I think
it's way more tactical.
Yeah, but I think that with at least the hobbyist miniature games, and I know I'm kind of derailing us a little bit, but with the hobbyist miniature games, I feel like that depth is where people tend to migrate that are going to stay here for the long haul, continue to purchase, continue to try new games and such. But we need that gateway drug, right? We need that entrance to be low and to have, whether it's, I don't want to say pre-painted miniatures because I love the hobby part of it, but small games like this, like the Rune Wars thing, I think is great. You get into a starter pack, you get the models you like, you get to test it out. There's a lot of Kickstarters happening that way now. You get a 2-player starter set. We're painting up the new Dark Age ones from Cool Mini or Not. Everybody's on that kick right now. How do I get 2 people to get a game for under $100 with some cool freaking miniatures and a cool freaking rule set, and then hopefully hook them into the game so that then they want every single faction we make and our customers for life. And so I think that the industry needs more of that. I just hope that what they're doing as they create that gateway drug, we'll call it, for our plastic crack world, is they create substantial rule sets to go along with it. So it's not GW's problem. It's not this what the hell is the game behind Betrayal at Calth, really? If we would have made an absolutely decent rule set behind it and knew what the hell we were doing, and I know they probably do with 8th edition and all that, but if it was more cohesive so that I didn't feel like everything I touched was a different entity, right? I need to feel like everything is co-joined so that I have a path. It's these stepping stones to immersion in the hobby. And I feel like that's where GW has constantly over the years fallen on their faces. They don't have that part right. The rules aren't cohesive. The models are. And so I think all their reliance is squarely on the hobby, which is great. They want to sell models, and I think that's fantastic. But it's the rule set that keeps people coming back to the models, in my opinion, at least, long term. In the near term, yeah, it's plastic crack. I'll buy, Dark Elves. I'll buy, Eldar. I'll buy Tau. I'll buy all this stuff and build some models. But if I don't have anything to do with them, they go on a shelf over time.
Yeah.
And so I got to have a rule set that is cohesive, that allows me to play with the first 10 models that I buy, and then allows me to play with these 100 models that I've built up over the course of years. And that's where GW misses out. That's where I hope places like Fantasy Flight win, and every other. It's really where I hope GW starts to win again. That's what we need. And that's the kind of business sense that will get miniatures into the hands of more people out there and show them how fantastic this world can be, regardless of your placement on the nerd scale. Because there's lots of people I know that you'd look at them and be like, you play miniature games? What? We all walk a diverse.
I don't even explain it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just kind of one of those things.
We're human. It's fun. Party, we play games.
Bonet introduced me and they'll be like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's not like I can spend the next 15 minutes trying to tell you, and then you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to forget what I told you. It's not for you.
It's not for some people. I do want to make one more point real quick, Kenny.
Please.
So the reason I was mentioning X-Wing is a lot of people have that aversion, and Jason, you've probably seen this, is that some of the ships that come in it, they contain cards, the little upgrade cards. And some of these cards you're going to want for your different factions and things, but they don't come in those particular ships. So you're like, oh man, I got to buy this ship to get this stupid little card to play with my other fleet. And I'm never even going to use the ship. And it's the collectability side to it. And a lot of people are worried about that. But what I see is, with this particular game, is they've just announced that there was an Essentials pack coming out. And in that Essentials pack, they contained the upgrade cards, the generic upgrade cards that came in the starter. And I was like, that's really interesting. I wonder why they did that, because theoretically those generic cards could be taken by either faction, right? And then I read through it, and it was talking about how when they come out with the units will come with their faction specific cards in each unit. So it seems to me that they are trying to make this a non-collectible game. This is a straight up hobby type game. So if you buy a unit, now this is just pure conjecture at this point, but if you buy a unit, it's going to come with the faction cards that particular unit and that particular faction can use. So you won't be forced into buying stuff that you're going to have to paint that you're not going to use in your games, which I think would be smart if they go that way. And I know that is the one thing that I hear people keep asking me about. They're like, wait, is it collectible like X-Wing? Am I going to have to try to get these upgrade cards and buy all these kits? As far as I can tell, that is not going to be the case, but we still don't know 100% for sure yet. And I will definitely be following up with FFG directly about that particular question.
Yeah, that has always been an issue. Like, because I came up with HeroClix back in the old days. Yeah. Always been the big issue with those types of games. And Mech Warrior 2 is the collectability of it turns it into pay to win.
I'm with you.
I hate that.
That's not tolerable in miniatures, I don't think, long term. I think it attracts a different crowd than what sustains the miniature hobby at mass, because if you have to buy a booster pack and I don't know what I'm getting, and when I get it, like the old HeroClix stuff, it's like, oh, look what I got this, and that's great. I already have 10 of those. What am I going to do with this? And then, or if it's like the cards, because it's funny you mentioned that, Rob, just over dinner the other night, a group of us were talking about X-Wing and about how you had to go buy these ships to get the right card loadout for this one ship you had. And you might never ever play those ships. But my question to those people was, well, are the cards random, or do I know which ships I have to go buy to get those cards? And they said that you know which ships come with which cards, so you just create a shopping list and you go buy those things, which I think is one step better than the booster pack mentality where I don't know what I'm getting and I got to go through, like the magic cards or the Pokemon or whatever. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, I have to buy 50 million and I still didn't get the rare I wanted. So I'm glad that it's at least not that. And I think you're right with Rune Wars, from what I've seen, is that it's going to be more like War Machine Hordes. Unit cards, if not accessible as packs on their own, at least come with everything. When you buy the unit, you get what you need. And then you like generic upgrade decks and stuff. Malifaux is very similar. You get obviously the card that you need with the model, and then your upgrade packs are literally just buy the upgrade pack, and it has everything that's usable by every faction all in one. So those kinds of things I understand, because the benefit of having the unit card or the stat cards or the equipment card is 100 times better than a printed out list from an army builder or the book, right? Because it just saves time. It makes the gameplay more efficient, allows you to remain more immersed in what you're doing with your social aspect with the person across the table. I'm a huge fan. I wish every game would learn, and move along. I mean, hell, Infinity doesn't even do that. We don't have unit cards. We print out lists, and you look at your list, and you look across the room, and everybody's always looking at their list. A lot of time could be saved with just unit cards. I would have a little stack of cards and go through it, and that'd be perfect. So.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So those basically are my top 5 things that I really enjoy most about this particular game. And that's just the first week of release. So hopefully it's only onwards and upwards, forward onto dawn from here about the FFG's new Rune Wars fantasy-based game, which I enjoy, if you didn't hear.
You make a robust point full of lots of opinion that is all positive. So seems like you really like this game.
I may. Allegedly.
No doubt, guys. Let's do a quick commercial break and then talk about the meat and potatoes.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
ElrixHobbies.com is your exclusive portal to upgrading your hobby. When you sign up at thelongwar.net, you gain an instant promotional discount good for 10% off at Elric's Hobbies. ElrixHobbies.com.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at dicehead.com have rewarded us all with an extra 6% discount on all dicehead.com merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
And we're back. Little Robbie B, what you got for us?
Yo, Kenny, should I play 40K?
Nope. That's our show, guys.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Kenny's got some emoticons to go make. No, I'm just kidding. So it's funny. I was at the local game store, the Hobbytown here in town, and somebody asked me to like, hey, what army do you suggest I start for 40K? And I was like, don't. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, just either wait for the new edition to come out or pick up Age of Sigmar. And they're like, but does anybody play here? And I was like, more people play Age of Sigmar everywhere than it's a little weird because we live in a very transient military town here. So what might be the scene this week isn't necessarily the scene next week, but I can tell you what the scene is probably in a lot more places than here. And it's definitely more on the Age of Sigmar side these days, I feel like.
And a lot of people get confused by this thing because it's not reflected in the national tournament scene, but it's a totally different market. That's based on promotion, advertising, legacy. But the 99% of GW's money in advertising and how they get paid is not that. It's not directed. It's not advertising to those people. So yes, you'll notice in the local scene in the Beats Labs, a lot of pockets AOS. When I talk to my buddies out here, it's all like, yo, let's play AOS this week. And I'm like, I don't have an AOS army yet. I need to get one. And I mean, you're 100% right. It's because we had a little anecdote on the webcast because I just had a game night on Monday, which I'm getting more into those than I used to. And I played my first AOS game a few weeks ago, just before Debticon, in which I thoroughly enjoyed. But we played 40K this time. My buddies, it's 4 of us. We played the Long War doubles format. And what we have, me, a veteran player, been playing for a billion years, multiple PhDs in Warhammer 40K. And another guy who's less skilled, or not less skilled, but less experienced. And then another guy, slightly less experienced. And then and the fourth guy, brand new, just started to play one game before this. And so that's what we leveraged about that's what we leverage with doubles. The doubles is a way for new people to break in, but you're not doing doubles events everywhere. So the biggest piece of advice we can give anyone in their local scene, if you are trying to get somebody at 40K, focus on doubles for a while. We have an entire tournament resource pack available to you on the Long War Network on Facebook and on spikybits.com, thelongwar.net. So we have all the resources there for even running your own tournament with our Bring a Hobby Back system, which is 50% hobby score, 50% battle score. So we played that system. And the way we did it was I teamed up with this brand new guy, and he had Necrons. So I grabbed Necrons, and we just did some real cool, like I just took some cool models. He brought his force, and we played. And he talked about, we had a great time. It was amazing, super fun, all that casual stuff that you love, the social interaction. But he was telling me his first story. He's like, yo, I played a game with my man over here, and like, I almost didn't want to play again because it was 6 hours and I didn't understand anything. 6 hours to figure this out. And I was like, dog, I'm not shocked by that statement at all. When me and Juice gets together, we can easily play a 4-hour game by ourselves, in our Beats Lab if we're not under the clock of a tournament. So he's like, Dan, it's just crazy. But he also had an AOS army he was starting. And I was like, biggest piece of advice I can give to you is, don't keep building these Necrons and painting them just yet. Maybe get your AOS, scooped up, because we were playing a game and I was like, okay, look, I'm on your side. So let's look what we got. Oh, we had some destroyers. We had some of this. There was some basic Necron stuff, like some Night Sides, some destroyers, some Tomb Blades, some warriors, some immortals. We had a unit of 3 wraiths, and I brought a Destroyer Lord and he brought a Destroyer Lord and Nemesis. And I was like, oh, this is what we're going to do. Like, so basically I did a lot of shot calling and I was like, yo, make these saves. And I explained to him and my opponents kind of like what my tactics are every round, which is probably, I never whisper behind my hand. It doubles like a lot, which is probably to our downfall. A lot of times it doubles events together, Rob. Is I'm like, we could do this, but what if they do this? And I'm kind of, I'm very,
you're a little loud. Your voice carries.
And so we had a great game. I was like, look, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these destroyers. They have 2 up saves. They have a war scythe, and they have a 4 vulnerable. We're gonna put them in the wraith unit right in the front, and Nemesis in there too. And both dudes are gonna be touching the same one of 3 wraiths, and then we're gonna come across the table. He's like, okay, I'll just trust you. Like, I would have done this. I was like, it's cool, man. I'll show you something you never seen before then. Cause this is a Death Star, but it's a ghetto Death Star. Yeah. That unit made it across the table, killed a Failblade, never fully died. Got multiple kill points. And the whole time it's because I'm putting these 2 characters on point with 2 up saves with toughness 6. Look out, sirring anything that's AP2 back to a 3 up vulnerable wraith. And I have 3 of those, aka 6 wounds. They seized the initiative on us, unloaded their entire Fellblade on us. We didn't nothing happened. He's like, what? What are you doing? What is all this? I was like, so then we distilled it down to Universal Special Rules, which is what we're about to get into. This is one of the reasons that GW needs to renovate 40K. We have how many pages of USRs? 12 or some shit. It's a stack of them. It's a huge part.
I want to say it's 21.
God, 21.
I'm pretty sure it's 21.
And you can distill USRs down into 2 categories. Universal Special Rule either says this model gets this, or it says a unit with at least 1 model with this benefits from this. That's basically it. That's what you're looking at in USRs. So you have 21 pages of USRs that you need to memorize, and you need to understand which is which rule. So basically, I'm like, yo, you guys should hit and run out of this combat. Oh, I can't just because my commander's the only one who has it. And it's like, no, that's the Universal Special Rule that says as long as 1 model in the unit has it. They're like, what? So yeah. He's like, oh, I want to shoot my orbital strike. You can't because you moved. Well, how do I see other people doing it. Attach them to your Centaurians. Well, how does that fix it? They have slow and purposeful, which states as long as 1 model in the unit has it, they bypass the need for heavy weapons standing still. He's like, but isn't that relentless? It's like, no, relentless is only the model. You see, they're like, oh my God, these are like all the same rules, but with a fucking different opening line. It's like, yeah, that's every goddamn rule right now. Every rule. So basically the person who wins these games right now, wins 40K games, is the person who's memorized more of those rules. And obviously, I'm speaking in a vacuum. If we're both playing at a tournament with highly competitive lists, it's going to come down to, oh, you didn't realize that shroud, as long as one model had it. Like, remember, Rob, when you played my Nurgle army one time back in the day, and you were losing all these zombies, and I was like, yo, what's going on here? You're like, oh, the shroud bubble is only 6 inches. I just couldn't get enough zombies in it. And I was like, no, dude, any unit has any models within range of the bubble, that model gains Shroud. Thus, Shroud states as long as one model in the unit has it, the whole unit benefits. You basically have 100 Terminators in cover. He's like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, that was early on tech right there.
Yeah, it's so that's literally, so it's like, why do we have 21 universal special rules that are worded this way? And then we have volumes upon volumes of codexes that have, some codexes have guys with these rules, some don't. So now what it comes down to is you only play the codexes with the characters, with the right combination of universal special rules, which is basically like hit and run to ignore cover now. So that's summarizes competitive Warhammer 40K poorly, but you get what I'm saying. It's too much.
Oh, it's way too much. And I think everybody has said that it is clunky. It has become clunky. Even the people in the studio are like, yo, it's clunky, you know? So we're getting to the point where it's like, what do we do right now? Do we start 40K? Do we play Age of Sigmar? Do we hit up those new Sky Dwarfs coming out that look so sweet that are dropping next week, you know? And GW's doing us a solid and putting a book out week 1 instead of making us wait for it and just kind of guess about buying the units like they used to do back in the day. You know, that's solid. Do we work on our hobby house, like I keep calling it? You know, when the housing market crashed, people weren't, you know, buying houses like they used to. They were putting their money into fixing up their current house so it would, you know, appreciate down the road, and they would be able to, you know, get more out of it, because obviously that was not the time to sell. So, you know, do you buy an airbrush now? Do you buy terrain? You know, all this new Armageddon terrain that's coming out. You know, like right now, it's I don't even know. It's what's the word? They say it's a seller's market or it's a buyer's market, you know, rather in the housing market. Like right now, it's a hobbyist market. It's like, what do I want to focus on? Because I'm in a holding pattern for, you know, 8th edition. Yeah, even just go back and start working on the stuff that's in boxes. Maybe it'll work out where it gets, you know, put into a battalion or a formation when the new rules come out. Like what do you guys feel like? What do you do right now as a hobbyist? What do you get into?
I think the biggest thing, first I'm going to start with the business side of it, because GW has long been known for doing this, where they would try their hardest to balance a downturn in one system with an upturn in the other. So fantasy might be going through its lull spell where the edition had been out for a while. 40K then kicks in and starts seeing some upswing to a new edition to fill that void. That worked for a long time because they were literally the biggest kid on the block, and we can argue that they still are, but they didn't have the kind of stiff competition they have now. I worry for GW keeping that same mentality now, when if you were at Adepticon, if you don't live under a rock and you look on the internet for all the, you know, neat new game systems that are coming out on a daily basis, it's not the time to play that way, right? I feel like Age of Sigmar is at a good spot, but I don't feel like it's really ramping anywhere. Yeah, we got dwarves, so there's always going to be maybe new factions. Maybe there's a new campaign set coming out, something like that. So I think there's always good longevity there, but it's not, I wouldn't call it peaking right now. People might argue with me. I don't play it, so you know, I'm not as well versed as I probably should be on that. But I feel like right now, having this kind of lull in 40K where we see all the, you know, what's 8th edition going to bring? What do you do? And now you're asking this question can be bad, because right now I'll tell you that there's a ton of game systems out there that people can get their hands on that have fantastic miniatures, great solid rule sets, that might then lead someone to say, wow, why wasn't I playing this before? And then when 8th edition hits, there's always the positives and the negatives, right? There's always something you don't like because it's different than the old stuff. And then there's always stuff that you do like because it's different than the old stuff, right? But there's always that, you know, that naysayer combating with the positive side of things. And I think that the nays can become very overbalanced right now because there are so many other good things to do. You're asking what people are doing. Somebody might go out and buy a new starter box for Rune Wars now that you've hyped that up. So now they're not in GW's world anymore. What if they like that rule set a whole lot? And now then Rune Wars is peaking while GW can't get its crap together on some other front with the game they used to play. And I think now more than ever, it's easier for people to maybe not give up on, but to lessen their involvement with a particular game system. We saw it happen with fantasy. You know, we'll never know the real numbers, but if you just look at your local meta everywhere you are, you'll see that there are people that just stopped playing that. Maybe they picked up Rampage, maybe they picked up Kings of War, and they've gone down that front. But overall, I think that the level of enthusiasm for that game system went down, right? There's people that picked up the pieces. Age of Sigmar is doing a good job, and it's starting to ramp up better. And I never wish any ill on any of these. I think it's great. Let's get it. Let's, keep the machine rolling. But timing is everything. And right now, it's so much easier as a consumer of miniature products to find something you love. And we see that every day on stream. I'll show a new model on stream that I'm painting. People go, where the hell did that come from? And I'll tell them about this game system. And hey, check out these rules. And it's a lot of fun. And you only need 7 models, So for $50, you can be playing this rad game, and fantastic. Go bug your local hobby store until they carry it. And then you get into that, and before long, our brains can only hold so much capacity for thought, right? I mean, we want to say it's this huge computing device, but trust me, as you get older, it's like, I can't be bothered with about half the shit that I hear every day. So I really like to focus. So if I find a game system I like, then I might, put all my eggs in that basket. And so I feel like GW is in a precarious position, maybe not long term, but every little chink in the armor that comes around when you make a mistake, because you allow people to get in their brains what's going to be happening with 8th edition, and you don't have anything right now to tell them, right? That rumor mill can be really bad. So,
yeah, and that's an interesting point. We've been seeing a lot of that with people just coming out of the gate and being like these people that like to invent, just straight up invent rumors, and then come out later and be like, I made that up, blah blah blah.
You mean Spikey Bits?
Oh yeah, because everything we just invent. We never source anything, and our articles are definitely taco meat, no steak involved whatsoever. I mean, there's
wait. I like tacos.
I like tacos too.
And also, why do you say that all like sarcastically?
I mean, everybody knows it's true. I'm just being sarcastic. Everybody expected Age of Sigmar to be a certain way, and GW fumbled the release like majorly. I think we can all agree there. Completely screwed it up. People were like, what? Round bases? Where did that come from? Like, we were prepared for this. So they have to be very careful with what and when they say things about the new edition, because if they say anything too soon, people might not buy XYZ. If they say anything too late, it devalues and jeopardizes the rollout of the new rule set. Because I mean, this whole codex thing, they could just be like, hey, your codexes aren't going to be invalidated, and that would put a lot of people's minds to ease, but they really haven't. And that's a very
haven't.
They kind of said something at that one little private, like 8-person seminar that Wyatt Turk was at, and he first of all, thank you, Wyatt, for writing that amazing article up. And, because you were in there and you knew exactly what they said, but they didn't come right out and kind of nail it and put people's minds at ease. It was a little frustrating. Let's look at the bigger picture. Let's look at, things like the Horus Heresy black books that cost like freaking $100 each. There's 7 of these things. Like, does that mean that all of these books for Horus Heresy are going to get invalidated? What about the Imperial Armors? Those things are like $50 each.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
we talked about that in a webcast briefly. Like, when people were asking us, because the webcast, if you guys didn't know, we do 2 shows every Wednesday night live, the after hours recording the podcast and the live webcast, where we source a lot of these ideas from the audience. And that was something that was proposed. Like, oh, what about codexes? What about, can you guys talk about 8th edition? What's going to happen with 8th edition? And we said, hey, we've already said everything there is to know about 8th edition. But then someone was like, no, but like, say something. Okay. Codexes are gone. We'll say that they're gone. And there's been people who said, no, that's insane. Like Mike is, I think, one of the people who says there's no way they're going to do that. But I think the evidence is self-evident. GW is actually firmly in the business of doing that. They've done it since the dawn of time. Yet we're using Imperial armor as case in point. In the old Beat Slab and the Durham Battle Bunker and NC, our boy EJ had an entire bookshelf, huge ass bookshelf, filled to the brim with all the Imperial armor books, thousands upon thousands of dollars with Imperial armor books. And it's like, this shelf from this shelf don't exist anymore. This shelf exists and half of this shelf does. And these are all condensments or replacements for these. It's like, damn, you got like $1,800 worth of like shit you've bought in the last 18 months that's meaningless. That's just paper. Like what Jason was saying earlier, the capacity of the human brain. I have a genuine fear that that my hard drive is filling up in my brain right now.
Oh, I know mine is. I have to like purge all the time.
I can't. But can you pick? I'm not sure I can pick what to purge. Like I have essentially where I'm at now with my commitment in like GW specifically and in tabletop wargaming in general, and even like past video game experiences that I have fully in my mind, like vivid recall. I've essentially memorized 9 languages.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
I have to interject that I think I found what may be my upgrade slot, but it feels really weird when I plug stuff into it, and it hasn't made me remember anymore yet. So I'm still working on that. I'll let you know. Yeah,
thanks. You got to let me know. We'll get that expansion pack for our brain.
That 8-bit.
Get that 32X, that Sega Genesis.
Yeah, I'm trying to play Rogue Squadron.
Like when I was playing with my buddies, and they were like, when I played AOS with them the first time, they're like, "Yo, you picked this up real quick." I was like, "Yo, it's like languages. You learn one, more language you learn, the easier it is, right?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm running out of hard drive space." I've essentially gone to college 9 times in a row to learn Latin now because none of these things exist anymore.
Exactly. It is definitely like a college class too, like learning these rule sets, going back, comparing, contrasting. I mean,
at least at this level, the level like where it's our 9-to-5 career.
Yeah,
because it is.
Nobody gets everything right, and there is no perfect game of 40K. Like people in the comments catch stuff all the time. I mean, you don't play a perfect game of 40K. Nobody does.
And you know what? And that's what makes it beautiful. I talked about that. I'm glad you brought that up during during the anecdote I told earlier. When we played our game, we played it all out, and the point I made to them was, there's never been a perfect game of 40K, and that's fine. And they're like, "What do you mean?" Because like there was some slop and things like this and that. And I was like, "Look, you remember that like on turn 2 when like you reached over with tape measure and knocked like 4 models over and then put them back?" It's like, "Yeah." I was like, "That happens one time in a game of 40K. It's not perfect." You're right. You didn't like laser scope in where those models were. That you define the narrative of your game however you want. Mm-hmm. And so by turn 3, most games of 40K, you guys are playing your own game, your own version of 40K. You've already made accommodations for each other. You've already bargained with each other. You've already said, "Damn, what was that? You know what? We'll just do it this way. And then we'll see. We'll get a judge if it matters." You've already built your own unique universe, your own one-of-a-kind reality that will never be repeated again. That's what makes wargaming beautiful, right? We don't want that to go away. we don't. But at this point, it will go away if basically it's like getting high on your own supply. We always talk about that. Like it's first rule drug dealing, don't do your own product. And GW is the biggest crack dealer on the block. And they were definitely in danger when they did end times and then going into Age of Sigmar. They're definitely getting high on their own supply. And they weren't looking at the marketplace.
100% agree. So I don't know. I think it'll be different. They definitely have, all these folks coming on, the presenters, we'll call them the presenters, really coming on strong and interacting with folks at all the big events. They seem to be out there in the trenches, so to speak, that we've been digging for many years now. So that's really good to see, I feel like. So loving that. So I don't know, what would you, if you had to pick something to do right now, what would it be, Kenny, of all the stuff we talked about? It's April 12th. You don't know when 8th is coming out. You want to do something. What do you do? Just
play with what you got, man. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to make a new army. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make new terrain. I'm literally not going to do any of that. I'm going to play my models. I'm going to play 40K and I'm going to play it a lot. I'm going to play it as often as I can and enjoy it and just love it. And then when it goes that way, I have some cool, fresh memories of my last few games. Cause I can actually remember my last games, my last 6 games of 40K 5th edition very vividly. ATC. Mm-hmm. The second year we won ATCs together was the last tournament in 5th edition.
That's true. It was.
And It was a big deal. And I remember everyone in the room being like, like cheering and like, here we go, we're going to change editions now, it's going to be awesome, like, and I remember that emotion, and it's one of my favorite moments that I remember. And I remember everyone's armies that I played. I remember most of the opponents' names even to this date. Like that's
some of the terrain you got pictured with.
Oh yeah, like that's some sick terrain, bro. I even remember the water stain on the drop ceiling tiles. I'll never forget that stain.
But yeah, I think that's good. What would you do, Slow Fuse?
I think the first thing I want to say is that, like, Kenny, that's good. I think that, if you can become a kind of a light in your local scene for keeping people playing, that will bridge the gap better than anything, right? Because along with playing comes the hobby. Yeah, you got to finish the units you're playing with. Even if you don't buy a new army, I guarantee everybody's got boxes of crap they didn't ever get done for what they already have. And I think that's the way to approach it. I think, yeah, if you have a love for the game, stop for a minute. Remember why you love the game. Remember everything you've been through already. Yeah, there's going to be upturns. There's going to be downturns. You don't control the company making your game, but you control the fun you have with the game. You can always play old rule sets. All those books on the shelf that are Imperial Armor, you can still use them, right? You just have to get creative with your local scene on how you want to make that happen. And a lot of time that's a lot of trouble for people. They don't want to do that. They feel like, well, I just want the company to give me what I want. Well, if they're not giving you what you want at any given time, continue to make what you want with what you've got. And it's so easy in our world because we do own all the miniatures. We do own these books of rules, or for game systems where the rules are free, you just print them out. You got a PDF. Fantastic. Do it. Play, have fun, enjoy it, have the social aspect, meet new friends, bring new people into the game. Some people will say, it's not worth bringing new people in because we don't know what's going to happen next week. Oh, come on, man. If we all live by that mentality, we never get anything done. Right? I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so I'm not going to do anything today. Come on. That's not a good mentality to have. We do this to have fun. It's a game. Yeah, it takes a lot of investment, so at some point in time, it feels a little bit more like work. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that's a healthy balance to keep going, because it is sort of competitive. Well, not sort of. It is. It's a competitive game. But play. Man, build the models you got. Keep hobbying and having fun. You can always, as Robbie, as you say all the time, man, flex those hobby muscles. There's always something new you can learn. Now you got models you don't know if you'll ever use. What better models to learn on? Paint, put them together, pick up that airbrush like you said and do it. For me, if this was my game system, if a game that I was playing right now with my heart and my soul was in this limbo state, I'll be honest and I'll say I would use this time to really try out my new hobby stuff on whatever I had laying around. If there were other games that I had on the shelf that I was never having time for because I was always playing 40K, right now would be the time I'm trying out those games. I'd use it as a refresher to kind of, clear my mind and get me back on track. And I would go and do all those other miniature hobby aspect things that I've been putting off because now you got the time, right? But if you're like Kenny and you say, now I'm just going to play, I'm going to refocus on playing. There's nothing wrong with that either. If you happen to be in a community where you don't feel like you can guide the community as much, maybe you're a small cog in a bigger deal and the community's shutting down on 40K and going and playing something else, then go play something else. Go find something else you like. I think that it's going to be different for everybody just because not only your local scene with your friends and, is going to help guide you there. But I think the biggest key to take away is don't fall victim to the negative cesspool of screw this, man. They're ruining our game. I stay away from that, because even if the rules do come out and you don't like the rules, it doesn't do you any good to focus on that negative. There's so much else out there in the miniature world. So when I take that little piece, that little gem of insight, that the miniature world is right now at like one of the best states I've ever seen it as far as amount of games and amount of product available at good pricing with a fantastic sculpts and great stories behind them. They might not be as deep as the 40K universe because God knows those stories, I still read more 40K than I ever paint or play because the stories are so great. So there might not be other game sets that can live up to that, but read the 40K books and play some other game. Always stay positive with it. Don't let any negative energy on this stuff suck the joy of this hobby away from you. That would be my 2 cents.
So I couldn't agree with you more. You want to know what I'm going to do?
Scratch Down Under?
I heard it on the internet. There's pictures of, no, I'm just kidding.
There's a website that shows monkeys doing it. Yeah,
it's true. They wouldn't do that. So I am going to actually play. I am probably going to first off, I'm going to hit up Keylon Prime and be like, yo, send me that recipe for that marble detail you're doing. Because I'm going to do that on my XCN Hail for a lesson, hopefully. And then I'm probably going to play more Rune Wars. And then when Star Wars Destiny comes out, the new set, I'm probably going to play more of that.
Hell yeah. Just do it. It's so much. I love being that. I'm the guy that likes to reach out and touch everything. That sounds really bad when I say it with my outside voice, but
it sounds perfectly acceptable.
As long as I don't do it within 200 yards of an elementary school, I'm fine.
Yeah,
so
we're gonna fit in around here, bro.
But yeah, I like to reach out and grab hold of all these new miniatures, checking out everything that was at Adepticon. So much new, fresh stuff coming out. Great little mom and pop game companies that I feel is really cool to show support to. Some fantastic sculptors and artists and just neat stuff coming out that if for no other reason than to have the model, paint it, put it on a shelf, proxy it for something that doesn't exist. I don't care what you do with it. It's just, the world of miniatures is so great right now that getting hung up on, one silly rule set doesn't make much sense to me. So
the world of miniatures. I like that. Can I use that?
No, patented, trademark. Sold to China for millions of dollars.
Ugh, my goodness.
It'll be on a billboard near you soon.
Goodness. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. Kenny, you got anything to interject here on why you shouldn't play?
No, man. It's obviously it's a it's a parody. Like play 40K. We love this is our career, is our passion. The only thing I'll leave you guys with is there's so much more content than this. If you're just one of the only people in the world who listens to just this podcast, I feel like there's only about 6 or 7 of them. We got more content for you. If you guys were wondering who Jason was or Slow Fuse Gaming is, he is a member of the Long War Network, which is our live network on Twitch. Check us out on Facebook. It's the Long War Network on Facebook. It's a group page. So it's actually about you guys. It's about you guys posting your pictures, links to your blogs, links to your podcasts and your YouTube channels. Definitely find us, check out our content calendar, and don't let this be your only hobby aid this week.
I couldn't say it better myself. So we also have another fantastic resource that will get you exclusive content and early access videos. It is the Hall of Veterans over on the Long War, and that's where we post up all of our great content, sometimes weeks early, sometimes it's only a week early, but we never hold the hobby hostage when it does eventually come out on YouTube. But that's where you can get all of the bonus stuff. The webcast goes over there after it is finished on here. We've got the Beats Lab breakdowns on all of our battle reports, content you're not going to see on YouTube, but it doesn't take anything away from the features that do make it over there. So make sure you check that out. Become a veteran of the Long War today.